to the Dean and Reverend clergy, I thank Alexis's family and friends who invited me to say a few words today. Hillary and I are profoundly honored to be here in tribute and gratitude to a remarkable woman. I was able to go back into the archives of my library to pull out a couple of things that say a lot about Alexis Herman. One was just a short note. I got it from Alexis just after the last time I was honoring her at this cathedral for her wedding to Charles. She thanked me for helping to make her Sadie married lady, a great line from Funny Girl. And later in the note, she also thanked me for keeping her from being a runaway bride. It's a nice line, but anybody who knows Alexis knows she wasn't about to run away from anything. We first met when she was at the ripe old age of 29 and the youngest leader of the Department of Labor's Women's Bureau during the Carter years. After the administration ended, she joined my friend Ernie Green of Little Rock 9 to help businesses hire more minorities. When I was elected in 1992, Alexis, who was critical to Ron Brown's success, became deputy director of the transition team, and then ran my public liaison office before becoming Secretary of Labor. In the public liaison office, as I said then, she was the eyes and ears of the administration to America. And people liked working with her. They liked coming to see her. They liked talking to her and listening. And she was, of course, legendarily successful at the Department of Labor in settling the UPS strike. After I left office, she didn't leave me. In 2006, after Hurricane Katrina, President George H.W. Bush and I asked her to co-chair the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund. 4 years later, following the earthquake in Haiti, President George W. Bush and I asked her to join the board of the Clinton-Bush Haiti Fund. Both raised millions and millions of dollars to help people who might otherwise have been overlooked. And the kind of causes that may be out of favor today, but should never, ever be abandoned. Throughout a career, Alexis worked to empower other women and to strengthen families. And she did it in the private sector too, when she was on the boards of Coca-Cola, Toyota, the Urban League, the MGM, the National Council of Negro Women, where she proudly worked alongside her mentor, Dorothy Height. And that's a long list. It doesn't cover half what she did. Yesterday, by total coincidence, I was talking to Barry Diller, perhaps the most successful figure in television and pretty close in movies in our lifetime. And he was talking about how much fun it was being on two boards with Alexis. He said, I just loved being there. Every time I saw her, I perked up. Every time I listened to her, it made sense. She had an amazing way of being very economical with her words and still saying and doing what needed to be said and done. Now that brings me to the second letter. I found a memo that she wrote, being modest, not to me, but to my first chief of staff, Mike McClarty, very early, very early in our service here. It recommended that the first thing we do was to push the passage of the Family and Medical Leave Act. And in 2 brief pages, in language that those of you who knew her would recognize, she lays out the policy, the purpose, the politics, and the impact, all laid out perfectly in this 2-page memo. It was like her, straightforward, but elegant. And here we are 32 years later after I got Alexis's memo. The FMLA has been used more than 500 million times by American families. I thought of that memo on my first trip from New York to Washington on the shuttle after I left office. That's when you know you're not president, by the way. So the flight attendant came up to me and she said, "May I talk to you?" "Sure," I said. She said, "Well, look, my husband's a jazz musician, so he was always for you. But I wasn't so sure until my mother and father were both dying, one of cancer, one with severe Alzheimer's, and there was no one to take care of them but my sister and me. And we couldn't have done it without the Family and Medical Leave Act." She said, "I hear all these politicians talking about family values, but I think how your parents spend their last days is a very important family value." Those are the people Alexis Herman live to serve. And she knew an unlimited number of those stories. Now we think of her as a successful cabinet member, business executive, but she also, when she was a little girl, saw her father lock her in a car and give her a gun and tell her to shoot it if anybody got in there with her while he was beaten up for his advocacy for equal rights. She got on a bus with her school teacher mother and watched her being thrown out because she collapsed in one of the front seats where only white people were supposed to be, and the school bus driver threw her into the street, tore her hose, and her mother got up, dusted herself off, and with dignity said to Alexis, "I guess we'll have to walk home." And they did. We honor today a person who showed us how much difference dedicated and knowledgeable public servants could have in changing lives and lifting people up and strengthening families, making our union more perfect. One person, one memo at a time. When the rest of us wonder what we can do to make better stories for our neighbors and maybe help people we've never even met, we can walk away, as many seem to be encouraging us to do today, or we can live like Alexis did. She thought diversity was a good thing. It widened the talent pool. She thought nobody could get a job they're not qualified for, but nobody should be denied looking for a job that they are qualified for. If she were here, she would say, "Oh, this is all very moving. Now please go write your memo." We still have work to do. She was a beautiful woman, inside and out. There were many times not recorded in any memo when just having her there in the White House, in the cabinet, kept me going in tough times. Somebody asked me the other day after she passed what I thought, and I said, I really loved her. Always have, always will. She was real and true and good and went about her business without a lot of self-promotion, with self-evident dedication. I doubt if any of us here will ever forget us. But for me, for Hillary, for those of us in our larger family, we will remember so much with such gratitude. We thank God for her life, for what she loved, for what she served, for all those she touched. And we pray that she will beget many, many more like her. Because, as we learn every day, the old demons keep rising up to bite us. And we need our generation's Alexis Hermans, and the next, and the next, and the next. I saw a beautiful sleeping baby today when I met with the family, and I thought, this child could be the most important person in this room. But only if we believe that everybody should be treated with dignity and honor and given a chance. That was her life, and one of the reasons I loved her so much. Thank you.